So good evening everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. Today we are going to get into one of the topic where how Azure is going to be useful for our Power BI. Now first of all, before we talk about before we talk about the Azure, let's understand what is the need for this cloud. Why everyone is saying that this cloud is going to rule the world. For that, let me give an example of how the system is generating huge data and what is the reason behind this huge data and why Power BI cannot fulfill most of our criteria and why we have to use Azure. This is something which we are going to discuss in today's session. So before starting a session, please I'll request everyone to post your questions in the chat. I'll answer all your questions, and if you have not subscribed our channel, please subscribe our channel. Now, let's talk about the agenda for today. So I'll be walking you through what exactly is this data, how exactly this data is increasing, and we'll also see the growth, how the data growth is increasing over year by year, and what we can do as a solution. So this is something which we will be understanding in this session. Now, to start with, I hope everyone is most of you are attending from your mobile smartphones. Just for a second, if you can just close it and count the number of applications you have, it will be minimum 20. Maybe I have not seen you personally, but still the way you are using your smartphone, I can clearly tell as you are using minimum of 20 plus applications. Now, how can you say this? Well, we people are getting adjusted to technology, internet, smartphones. We are using n number of applications. Let me take a simple example of a person whose age is 25 and an average age. The apps which he is using will be like Facebook, WhatsApp, Insta. Maybe if he's very fond of Ola, maybe you will be using Ola. If I am very fond of Uber, maybe I will be using Uber. At least I can find one of either Ola or Uber, or maybe if I want to transfer money to someone, maybe I'll be using Google Pay. You may be using Phone Pay. Maybe someone else is using Paytm, but remember, these are all the optional apps which you have, but minimum you will be using either one for transacting money. Now, let's talk about e-commerce. Maybe, well, you're an Amazon user or a Flipkart user, or you may be using both. So usually what we do, we compare the prices. We take a product, we compare Amazon price, we compare with Flipkart price, and we check the whichever is giving a more discount, we usually buy. If you just minimize your screen and go to your mobile, just have a look at it, you will find minimum of 20 applications. There is Netflix, Hotstar, Premium or Amazon Premium. There is many apps. You will be using either one, but all the things which you are using, it's not just an app, it's a data. Remember, data is asset for all these companies. Now, I'm giving a simple example of one single person. I'm giving a simple example of one single person. Now, what will happen is, let us say this is a data for one person. This is a data for one person. Now, what if this is the entire world data that is getting generated? Now, how do you calculate this? For example, I'll give you a simple use case. Assume that whoever is 25 years old or greater than old, or maybe 18 years, assume them they are using smartphones. Now, in this 18 plus, whoever is having, let them will assume that they are using smartphones. Each one is having 20 apps. And remember one thing, this 20 apps, you cannot use it without creating an account. Account is required. When I say account is required, I can say it as they cannot use Ola or Uber without registering. Without giving your personal information, how can you travel it? Let us take Amazon. Without registering your number, without giving your home address, how can you use it? So you should be either having 20 accounts. Now imagine there are 3.5 billion users or maybe 3.5 billion people in this world using internet. Now 3.5 billion people into 20 apps and average into 20 accounts. Just do a simple calculation that how much data is getting generated. I'm not talking in terms of a single person. I'm taking the entire data across business, how much data it is getting generated. Now, these are the few things that you have to remember. And you may ask me a question, why this data has been increasing in the last few years, or why this was not in demand previously, why this has led the market in the last 4 years. To answer this question, you can just see all these applications which are generating data have introduced been in the last 15 years. In the last 18 years, this applications have created their own websites, the own usage, and people are start using it. Facebook, this is just a number which I've taken. It could be almost 2.37 billion users. WhatsApp, it's been just 10 years. It's been just 10 years. Before that, hope you all remember, you're all of the same age. One thing you remember is most of the things which we are doing is we were sending a text message. I hope everyone remembers we were giving just 100 messages per day. That also we were utilizing to the close people. And whenever there is any festival, New Year wishes, they would have charged. The telecommunication vendors would have charged. This was a situation 12 to 13 years back. But now, everything has changed. Everything has changed. You can send unlimited messages. You can send images. You can send audios. You can send videos. You can send any documents. The trend has changed. The trend has changed. Situation where you were given just 100 messages per day, and today there is an unlimited sending of messages. See, the technology has changed. See how the technology has improved in just 1 decade. And the last two applications is very new recent applications where you can just transfer money to anyone on this planet who is using a smartphone just by providing their mobile number. Initially, what was the use case? You have to go stand at the bank. You have to just apply a half-day leave, stand at the bank, write a challan, go and do all the formalities, then send money. But now, everything has changed. All these facts makes us to know that the data generation is keep on increasing. Just to give you more insights, every second there is 1.7 megabyte of new information that is getting generated. In the last 2 to 3 years, or maybe I can say last 4 years, the 90% of the data is getting generated in the last 4 years because people using the smartphones, applications, the businesses are using the applications is becoming more and more. Everything you're getting for cheaper rates. Smartphone, you're getting it for less price. Internet, we all know how internet is being impacted. Internet is something which everyone is using it. You cannot live without internet even for 1 day. That is a situation now. Now all these things has made us that the data keeps on increasing, and the majority of the data that has been generated in the last few years. Now, we say that when we don't know something, we just go and Google it. On an average, I would say every single person, if let's say from morning to night, you were working and you did not have anything, you did not understand, you just try to go and Google it. On an average, you search around 7 to 8 times in a Google. This is on an average. But see how much as Google has processing. Google has to reply to 40,000 searches every second. Every second across all the other people, they start searching something, and internally what is happening? It is getting searched. Google has to respond to all 40,000 search. Now how it is possible? Almost 3.5 billion searches. So this is all the facts you have to understand. We just use it, but understand what is happening at the background. We have around almost 3.7 billion internet users. Just imagine how many applications they may be using, how much data they are generating, how they are utilizing the internet. Just do a simple mind calculation. Now, we also see YouTube videos. In fact, this itself is a YouTube live where you are watching our YouTube. There are around 41 lakh users who is watching videos every minute. Now, when all this is something which is getting generated at the back end, try to understand how data is getting generated. We all know Twitter is one of the hottest app where you can get all the things on live. Any information you want, any news you want, any updation you want, you can just go and get it in the tweet. Now, every minute there are around 4 lakh tweets that will be sent. Now, all this is nothing but an information. And information is a data, and for these companies, data is an asset. They make money with respect to this asset. Instagram, this is one of the most widely used application nowadays. Everyone posts their images wherever they checked in, they post reels. So all this, if you see, Instagram post every minute, people are posting it. It supports around 45 to 50,000 of images. Now, where this is getting stored, how this data is getting generated, all this is a $1 million question for you. When the data is getting generated, you should also know where you can store the data. How you will store the data? This is something which you have to remember. Now, when I say that this things are getting generated, you should also understand how the real-time data is growing. Now, I'll tell you one thing. In the last 5 years, if you see, the growth of the data is increasing rapidly. Though we are having applications in the last 10-15 years, but the growth is happening in the last 5-6 years just because the usage of smartphones, internet, applications, where the entire business is going towards the data. Now, what we can do is, we all know what is this gigabyte. What is a gigabyte? When someone asks you what is your mobile RAM, maybe you will tell 2 GB RAM, 3 GB RAM. We have heard about GB. If someone is asking what about your laptop, maybe you will tell 1 terabyte configuration, 2 TB as such. But the data which is getting generation, I can say that it is already crossed zettabyte, or you can also call it as gigabyte. And as of today, as of 2020, we can say that the data that has generated across all the business, all the applications has reached around 40 gigabyte. Now the question is 40 followed by zeros, it will be 21 zeros. That is a data that is getting generated. Now remember one thing, when this is a data generation, or this is what is increasing in the real time, you tell me who is there to do analysis. Where do you store the data, and who is going to do the analysis? That's the question you'll be having. And let us see some reasons why this is getting generated. In the last 4-5 years, if you see, there is a rapid increase in the data generation, and we will see what are the reasons. One major reason I can say is the reasons why the data is getting increased. There are few scenarios where the data is getting increased. Let me go one by one. The first is internet users. everywhere you will find the internet usage. And in fact, even in this pandemic, the rate at which the internet users has been increasing just because everything is being digitalized. The best example I can give is online classrooms for maybe students. Even for them, the world has changed towards digital. Initially, maybe students were not having smartphones, but nowadays even students are having smartphones and internet. Right? Even in the pandemic itself, if this is a growth, before the pandemic, see how the internet users has been a very impact for generating data. Now, the second thing is smartphones. With the internet usage, maybe I can say you can log into your laptop, systems, tabs, whatever it is. But now coming to your smartphones, that also becomes one of the major reason that the data is increasing. Now all this becomes a factor. Now, if you understand about the sensors, this sensors which is maybe used in hospitals or maybe in any of the industry that collects the information, and the sensors data will be recorded. That way, sensors also generates lot of data. Let me give a very good example. Let's say a CCTV camera. Your CCTV camera, what is the work of your CCTV camera? Just maybe you have seen anywhere in your flats or maybe in your wherever you're working, you would have seen the CCTV cameras. So what is the purpose of the CCTV cameras? What if, okay, when you are sleeping, you switch off that and you sleep it, and again when you are awake, you switch on it? Does it make sense? Definitely no. It should be your third eye. It should always be open. Just because you are switch on, the data is getting recorded. Something happened last week. If you want to go and get it, you can just go back to that date and you can search it. You can't even delete that. You should always maintain that, and CCTV cameras are always like 24/7 working. Just imagine how much data it is getting generated. Coming to smart devices, nowadays the smart devices are also impact, like they will check your heartbeat, they will be like used as your fitness. So all these are things which are collecting the information. Now these are the reasons that why the data is increasing. Coming to IoT devices, as well as it is user friendly. See, you just give your smartphone to someone, maybe he's a 5-year-old, 10-year guy, okay? Within 2-3 days, he will be knowing how to use it. You need not teach him how to use it. Anyone can use the smartphones, anyone can use the internet and start using at the real time. So that much user friendly it is. So when you're talking about the IoT devices, when you're talking about the usage that is coming from the people who are using internet, smartphones, sensors, if you go to an hospital, the sensors will be like recording all the patient's informations. The best example I can give it for a sensor is a CCTV camera which records 24/7. All these things you have to keep in mind. What could be the reason that it is getting generated? Now the next question. Can you ignore this? Can you ignore this? Now, if you can ignore it, then what is the purpose of usage? If you can just delete, let's say from morning to night, whatever happened, your CCTV camera has captured it, and by end of the day you delete it. Then why did you record it? There is always a purpose. The data should be preserved. In order to predict the future, in order to do the analysis, data is very important. Remember, data is an asset. Now, when these things are getting generated, the next question is, who is going to do analysis? How are we going to store the data? Now, let's see that one by one. Now, a simple example, I'll tell you how the technology has changed. In 2009, maybe if you want to take some very good snaps, maybe it's like something like a pre-wedding shoot, something like that. If you see, if you want to take it from a certain distance, there will be a person who will be like circulating you with respect to a helicopter, and where well as you would have had one very good camera. Well, this was the case. But what happened in 2019? The entire thing changed. The driver or maybe the pilot, whom I'll call it as a pilot, and the person who is taking the photos, both of them lost job. So what do you feel here? Technology is overtaking. You have to keep yourself updated. The technology is moving in a rapid pace. In the just span of 10 years, your 100 messages that you were sending from your normal phone has changed to WhatsApp messages. In fact, you can even send your images, phone, audios, recordings, whatever it is. This is a very good example which can tell you that in just 10 years, see the change that has happened. Now imagine the person who is taking a photo now has been one person who is operating this drone. He has to collect all the information. He has to store all this information. Now the data is also increasing. Now, why this is important? Why this is important? Why you have to preserve the data? What is the need to save this data? That's where the question comes. You have to be having this data to be a very good decision maker. Whenever you have all this data, it helps us to understand. It helps us to understand in a business terms. So these are the few things. It will help us to understand what type of customers you have. How can you improve revenue? Every business, every company, every small stores which you're seeing in everywhere, their only objective is to make money, improve revenue. Even a small tea shop, if you see, even if you compare Amazon and Flipkart, the only reason why they are working is for better customer service provider and to increase their revenue. To increase their revenue, they need to understand how data is going to be impacted. What are the reasons how the data can be used in order to improve their revenue? This is very important. Now, these are the few things that you have to remember. More the data, better the analysis, better the results, better you make money. Data becomes a fuel in solving most of your business use case. If you want to target a right person, you should always have the right data. So these are the informations, these are the things you have to understand why data is important. Now, the first condition which I say is, let's say you collect the data from different people. We have seen the growth and also we have seen the generation of data that is coming from the big data. It could be because of the smartphones, applications, etc. Now, once you get the data, I am telling you why you have to preserve it. To preserve it, I am telling you, you have to preserve it in order to come up with a better solutions. Now, the next question is, where do you store? Where do you store this data? We know the data is getting generated. Now the next question is, where do you store? Let us assume that you are working for one business and they have their own data. Let me take a simple example. How much can an Excel hold? Excel can hold maximum of 1 million record. 1 million record. When I say 1 million, the maximum record that an Excel can hold is 10 lakhs. And what is the number of users Amazon or Flipkart is having? They have billions of users. Where is a billion and how much Excel can save it? Excel can save only 1 million. Now what about others? Where you will store them? Okay, let's move to the next one. Let's say I use Oracle database. In fact, I am not able to store all my record in Excel. Let me go to Oracle database. Oracle database saves up to maximum of 5 GB per data per table. Let's say you have an information. The maximum information that you can put it into a table could be 5 GB. After that, maybe one thing I'll do. Let me take one easiest, MySQL database. even MySQL database, which is the easiest tool to understand, you can still store 1 GB of data per table, and the total table size should not exceed 2 GB. This is also almost same like an Oracle. Now, when this is a situation that is happening across this, what if you want to store 2 terabyte of data? Now I'll ask you a simple question. Let us say you're working for Amazon or Flipkart. Let us assume you're having 5 terabyte of data. Now let us assume you have a laptop. The laptop is, you're having a 8 GB RAM and you have 1 terabyte of hard disk, which cost you 1 lakh. Now, in order to process this data, what is the options I'll give is, maybe in this 1 terabyte of space which you have, you can have multiple Excels. This is like one Excel. You can have around 70 plus Excels, and you can store this information. Okay. Now, let us say your business is having 5 terabyte. I'll give a situation. You tell me whether this I will do it or not. First condition, I will purchase 5 laptops. 5 laptops, which is equal to 5 lakhs. Will I do this? Or let's say I'll put it in the Oracle database. Okay, so maybe 5 terabyte, I'll be like storing everything in a 5 GB table. Let's say for this I need to pay 4 lakhs to the database owners to store this data. Now imagine when you're working for an application, you're struggling to store this 5 terabyte of Amazon or Flipkart, whichever application you're working, and you are putting 90% of the amount for this laptops or maybe a data storage devices. Now, do you think this is the only spending will I have? No. No. You have to take 5 people. You have to take 5 people who has to take care of your data, who has to sit in front of the laptop. They should always be operating. You should make sure that the laptop is switched on every time. You have to pay them salary. You have to pay the maintenance. In order to use your softwares, you have to pay them the license softwares. Whether they're using electricity, they're using battery, whatever this is, you have to pay them. You have to pay a salary. You have to take 5 employees under your control. Just to maintain a 5 terabyte of data, you have to take 5 people for working, and they have to work for you. And what is a data security here? Who knows? Their relatives also can go and see the laptop information. Your business details, it is in someone's laptop. That someone's laptop, someone else is seeing. Where is your security? Or do you put one more person and make him to observe what he's doing? Can you do that? Never. Never. Now, how do you store your 5 terabyte of data is the question. You cannot store it in Excel. You cannot store it in your database. You cannot store it anywhere. Now, what is the solution? What is the solution? Now, what we can do is, now there is a question that is arising in your mind. How will I store 2 terabyte of data? How will I store 5 terabyte of data? How can I improve my business? To answer this, we have cloud computing services. Now, what is this cloud computing? Let's say for storing 10 terabyte, the options which you have first is store it in 10 laptops, which cost you 10 lakhs. Or the system, maybe you will buy one server, Oracle database server, which can cost you 8 lakhs. And And remember, not only this, you should also try to understand most of your income you're spending in for data. And you have to maintain the data, you have to maintain the people, you have to maintain the servers, you have to maintain the backups. Your work is going to be really hectic. Now what these companies are doing is, these are all four cloud based services are telling, boss, you don't spend this much, you give me 3 lakhs or you give me 2.5 lakhs, I will take care of the data. I will take care of the data. I will take care of the backup of data. I will maintain the data. I will do all the maintenance. I will provide you all the services. You please concentrate on business. Rest of the things, you leave it to me, but maybe you can give me 20% of the amount that you are spending it, and you give it to me 2 lakhs or even 2.5 lakhs. Let me take care of everything for you. You concentrate on your business. This is what these 4 cloud services will tell. Now, usually we have this intermediate people, right? So let's say, suppose you are doing all the work. You cannot do it. Maybe you will hire some person. They will do work for you. Similarly, there are the cloud services which will make your work easier. Rather than you working at the end to end, you can give some work to the cloud services. And these cloud services, what they will do is they will take some amount from you, and they will try to provide you the solution to your problem. Now the problem was storing the huge data. Now we have 4 services: AWS, Microsoft Azure, and we have GCP. These are all the 4 services which can give you a better solution to your storage problem. Now, let's say the data is stored. Now what is next? These people will help us to store the record, store the data. Let it be 1 terabyte, let it be 2 terabyte, let it be 10 terabyte. Based on the data, you have to pay the amount to them. They will store it. And these guys will provide you the complete security, backups, all the features, data security, everything they'll provide. They will only hire the people, they'll only maintain it. You need not do anything. Your objective is to start thinking and take your business to the next level. Forget about all this. These people, their only work will be to maintain your applications, maintain your data. Now, why you need cloud computing? Why you cannot store in a traditional way of a Excel, CSV files, or a flat files, or a Oracle, or a MySQL? Because at one point of time your data will explode. You will be having huge data. You cannot fit it in your laptops, you cannot fit it in your Excel, you cannot fit it in your databases. The data is increasing. I've told you why the data is increasing in the start of the slides, where you will have internet usage. People are using internet, people are generating data, and when people are there to generate data, now the question is, who is there to store the data, who is there to analyze the data? So cloud computing becomes a very important step. Now what we will be doing, this will help us to store the huge data, and also it will be like one of the services. You can access it wherever you are in the part of the world. You can still access our data by just using internet. You need not have an extraordinary system. A simple system with the internet connection, you can access our cloud data by just following the URL. That way, your cloud computing becomes a very good opportunity for us to store the data. Now, why we have chosen Azure? So Azure is again a Microsoft Microsoft product. We all know Power BI is a Microsoft product. There is some limitations in Power BI. What is the limitations? What is the limitations? It will, the system gets hanged when you have huge data. The processing is a problem, and the reports get heavier when the data is huge. Let's say you have a 5 terabyte of data. To store this 5 terabyte of data in Power BI, and for that you have to do processing, and for that you have to do reporting, your report may not be that effective. Not that effective. Why? Power BI is like an application for us. How can you load it? It is also having certain limitation. Now, if the data is huge, what you have done so far, if you have done your data connections using Excel, CSV files, Oracle files, or maybe Oracle database, or what else? After that, in the real time, what happens is the data will be very huge. Just imagine your Amazon, Flipkart, Hotstar, Prime, Facebook, WhatsApp. How many users are there? How many users are using it? How many times you send a message? How many times you log in? How many images or photos you post in your Insta? Just do a mind calculation. It will be more than 5 terabyte of data that will be generated across every stream and every domain. Now, how can you build a report with this data? Do you think your Power Query editor, which is responsible for built-in ETL tool, can handle this huge data? Do you think you can store this data first of all? There is always a challenges. Now, how do you overcome these challenges? There is a very good solution for these limitations, that is Azure. It is the second largest cloud computing system where you can access the data from wherever you are, and it is one of the fastest way of accessing the data. It can provide you everything in from their services. It can provide you everything from your services. Now, since you have a limitations in Power BI, that is something, and Azure is taking care of it. Now you can start concentrating on your business. That's where we will be figuring it out what this Azure can do for us. In that way, Azure with Power BI will be a very good interaction where you can do all your work in Azure. The one thing which can do all your data transformations is ADF. ADF stands for Azure Data Factory. Now, the word factory, what you remember? Maybe if you are from a village side, or if you're from rural areas, you would have seen many people saying that I work in factory, I work in factory, I work in factory. What is this factory? Factory is a place where you convert your raw materials into a productionized materials. Let's say a simple cloth, a plain cloth. This one, they will stitch it and they will make some shirts. So this is a raw material. This is a final material. If you see in the factory, everything will be well organized. It will be well organized. There will be a separate team who collects the raw materials. They will get it from a different companies, and there will be like in order. Maybe you would have seen in many movies, all the machines will be in order. Hundreds of workers are stitching together. Everyone will be wearing uniforms and everyone will be given a break. They will be continuing their work, and finally the final production, like let's say shirts here, will be sent into a different showrooms, different companies. Now, what is the work of this factory? In general term, factory is something which converts your raw materials into a useful products. Same thing, Azure Data Factory will actually help us to convert your raw data into useful information. You can get the data in the raw format from a different system. Let us assume the data is 5 terabyte, 10 terabyte. Maybe directly your Power BI may not support it. So in fact, if you want to analyze it something, it should be in a clean format. Now in this one, the data is not clean. So obviously you have to clean the data, you have to transform the data. And in fact, what we know about Power BI is like a one-stop shop which can clean the data for you, it can analyze the data for you, it can report the data for you, it can do anything for you. But there was a limitation. What if the data is huge? Now what you have to do is, you know that there is a limitation. For that you want to find a solution. Azure was a solution. In that Azure, maybe it is like a process where you can have the entire process cleaned. Let's say you get the raw data, you understand this raw data, you process this raw data, you clean the raw data, you transform the raw data and then push it to a next level. Once you have everything in place, let's say at this side it is a raw data, and from the raw data maybe it will go through the multiple process and finally it will come as a clean data. Clean data. Don't you think here I have avoided using my Power Query editor? Power Query editor did not help us to transform the data because of the very huge in size. Now what I have done, I have cleaned the data somewhere else. That somewhere else is Azure Data Factory. Azure Data Factory is a service that is present in Azure. Now by cleaning the data, what I will do is all the transformations, everything I've done. Now what I can do, I can directly pull it into my Power BI and do a report. You need not do the cleaning process. You need not do the cleaning process directly in Power Query editor. You need not transform the data. Everything you can do it in Azure. Now Azure becomes a solution to our problem. And in Azure there are many services, and one services which will help us to transform the data could be Azure Data Factory. Now this Azure Data Factory will be our solution for our problem which we are facing in Power BI. Power BI was well and good as long as the data was okay, manageable. But as and then, keeping the future in mind, always the data is going to keep on increasing. In the first slide I show you 40 gigabyte is a total data that is getting generated. Okay. Now 40 gigabyte. Now what happens? This 40 gigabyte will become 80 gigabyte in future. Definitely it will, because the usage of people using smartphones, internet is keep on increasing at a rapid pace. Definitely this will be a 80 gigabytes. Now this increase, how do you handle it? You may not be able to handle only by using Power BI. Obviously you should be having one of the system where you exactly need to figure out what is a solution, and for us everything was a solution in terms of a Azure. Azure is also a Microsoft product. Power BI is also a Microsoft product. You will have a very good interaction. You will be finding very easy to connect it, and once you clean the data, you can easily connect to your Power BI and then do the reporting. Azure Data Factory in Azure could be a solution for us where you're trying to process your used data. Once the data is cleaned, now easily you can form a report. Now let's say this is a report. This report, the entire visuals what you're doing. Maybe you are using column chart, pie chart, donut chart, cards, multi-cards, KPIs, maps, whatever you are using. Everything you will be using as the same as Power BI, but only thing is, rather than connecting your water from your well, let's say you are taking your water from your well, now you are going to take it from ocean. Simple. Whether you take it the water from your well, you take it from your lake, you take it from your sea, everything, water is water. But where you're taking, that's the question. You just connect it to the source and start building your report. The backend of this report could be Azure. And you need not worry about data. Data is taken care by Azure. They make sure your data is protected. They make sure the data is secure. They do handle all the backups. Now, we have everything in place. The only thing is you need to connect it to the right place and get this report done. It's as simple as you take the water from well or you take it from the ocean. Wherever you take, water is water. And the front end will always be a Power BI report. Maybe Power BI report or Power BI was not helpful if the data is huge. Now forget it. What if the data is huge? You still have a solution within Azure itself, which is also a Microsoft product, which will give us a connection between your data and your Power BI. And this way you can solve your problem, which was like a limitation in your Power BI. By learning Azure and Power BI, you can fix all your issues. Now there is no problem at all. For data storage, Azure is a solution. For processing, Azure is a solution. And Power BI is the one of the best business and intelligence tool in the market, which can do your report for you. Now I can say that everything is readily available for you, and by using Azure and maybe by using Azure Data Factory as a service, you can build a beautiful report. Now, this is a reason I can say it as Azure becomes a very important factor when you want to connect it to Power BI and do your reports. The one limitation which Power BI had was, what if the data is very huge? What if that Power Query editor within the Power BI is not able to transform your data? In that case, there was a challenge. Nothing to worry. We have very good friend, which is Azure, which is also a Microsoft product, which will help us to fix the problems. And finally, still I can build a report. Only thing is the sources is getting changed. That's all is a problem which we had, and we have also found the solution. So learning Azure along with Power BI will be a greater importance for you, because in case if you find it huge data in your system, who knows, tomorrow you may go and work in Amazon. Who knows, you may go and work with Flipkart. Their data will be very huge. You cannot just do all the transformations and data cleaning directly in Power Query Editor. You would be needing an extra source or maybe an additional information to process the data. Azure could be the best solution. There are other cloud services as well, but if you're connecting from other cloud services to Power BI, which is a Microsoft product, maybe you have to install some jars, configurations files, everything as per the system need. Now, but if you are into a same system, Azure's Microsoft as well as Power BI's Microsoft, all these things are within the product to product, which will give a greater interaction. Now, this is all about how Azure is going to be important in building our reports. Okay, any questions? Do you have any questions? While using Azure, what Power Query Editor? Power Query Editor is like a limited transformations. Maybe it may not support for huge data. That's the reason now we are using Azure Data Factory, which can solve our processing problem. If you learn Power BI with Azure, I think you will be having a good opportunity in the market, because in market companies are expecting multi-skilled person. Always SQL becomes a primary language, where what happens in your cases, let's say in your Azure itself, you will be writing a SQL code. where you will try to pull the data. So SQL is like something I would call it as a mandatory. Yes, we will be teaching SQL, Azure and Power BI all three at one place. We have a course that will teach you all three. If you learn Azure with Power BI, your profile is going to be a high profile. For the next 10 years, you need not worry about any other skill. The presently Power BI developers, if you know SQL, Azure as well as Power BI for reporting, data processing problems, Azure was a solution and SQL becomes a way to communicate it. All these three, if you know, you will be having very good growth. We will be using Azure Data Factory for processing it. It's not about deploying or productionizing it. You will be using that for processing. Whatever you were doing it in Power Query Editor, now we are going to do in Azure Data Factory. Databricks and Spark is not required. Azure Data Factory itself, we can solve most of the problems, transformations without writing any single line of code. Yes, you can take only Azure as well. Any other questions, please do ask. And see, when you're talking about SSIS, SSAS, SSRS, all this is something which was before Power BI. And remember one thing, again I'm telling, those were all using on-premises database. On-premises database, I give an example, it can cost you 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs. But what cloud services is going to do? It can give you with a less price. It is going to give a optimal solutions. So Azure Data Factory can replace SSIS tools as well when you come for the high-end applications. Yeah, we will share you a form where you can get registered for our free classes. You can attend our classes for free. You can try to understand what is the concept, what is the course behind this. We will share you the link. We will be teaching you Azure Data Factory as part of this course. Yes, reports or dashboards which are directly connecting to Azure. You need not have your local servers. Directly you can use your connections and you can start building your report. In Azure, there are around 200 services. You can use only for the data storage, Azure SQL database, Azure block storage. For processing, you can use Azure Data Factory. All the services which you will be using as part of a Power BI, we will be teaching you. Cloud services are actually bit of pricing. As I said, you have to pay what you're using. What are the services you're using? For that, you have to pay. We will share you one link. Please fill that form. We will be sharing you the link. Please do fill the form. Just wait for a minute. We will be sharing you the link. The duration of this course, it's going to be 2.5 months, where you will be teaching where we will be teaching SQL, Power BI with Azure. Depends on what source you are using. If you are using a connection that requires directly you're accessing it, in that case you may have to require a refresh. Yeah, we have shared you the form. Please fill the form. Please fill the form. You can get registered with us. You can get free sessions. You can attend there. And you can then decide. Please fill the form to get registered. Companies are hiring Power BI professionals. Companies are hiring Power BI professionals who is having a good knowledge on data analysis. Along with that, if you have an added advantage of cloud-based services, your profile will be valued. If you know Azure, if you know Power BI, you need not worry for the next 10 years. Next 10 years, I'm telling as a minimum. Because as long as what we are using Azure with Power BI, it solves all the problem. We don't have any drawback now. Please fill the form to get the free sessions from us. You can attend our free sessions and then you can decide about the course. The course duration is 2.5 months and you will be learning SQL, Azure with Power BI, all three at one place. We will be providing you an account, organization account, in order to learn your advanced Power BI. We will be giving you 3 months of premium account access and 1 year of pro account access. You can reach to us on this number. You can reach us on this number. Power platforms, I can say, like if you are integrating your reports to some of the applications, that can be called as a power platforms. Let's say you have a web application and you want to integrate your Power BI reports, you can directly go and like integrate your reports to power platforms. Please reach us on this number for more details. Please reach us on this numbers for more details. Any other question? Any other question? So I request everyone to register this form, and also if you have not subscribed our channel, please subscribe our channel. We will be posting you some of the projects as well. We'll keep you posted, and please subscribe so that you get your updates. We'll be giving you the complete playlist for DAX. We'll be also going to give up all the videos with respect to the real-time projects. We'll be working some end-to-end projects. So please subscribe to our channel for more details. You can call us anytime. We will assist you with all the information you needed. Okay, so thank you all for your time and patience. So what we have learned today is we have tried to understand the need of Azure with the Power BI reports, which will solve our majority of our problem, which is the problem in the data storage and data processing. So please reach out to this number. You can learn most of the things here which will make you a professional developer in the real time. So thank you all for joining. Please reach out to our number. We'll definitely help you with the more content and we'll give you more clarification on the course. Thank you all.